There is a vault in Atlanta, Georgia. Behind a door that requires two executives with two separate keys, there is a piece of paper inside a metal box. On that paper is a list of ingredients. The company has spent more than a century and hundreds of millions of dollars making sure you believe this list matters. They have built an entire mythology around it. Secret formulas, locked vaults. Only two people in the world know the complete recipe. And it works because every time someone tells you this story, you picture something precious, something worth guarding, something that explains why this drink tastes the way it does. But the vault is not the secret. The secret is what happens to your body between the first sip and the last. And the paper in that box has almost nothing to do with it. In 1886, a pharmacist named John Pemberton mixed a syrup in a brass kettle in his backyard. He was trying to cure headaches. The original formula contained coca leaf extract and cola nut caffeine. It was sold as a patent medicine. Pemberton claimed it could cure morphine addiction, nerve disorders, and exhaustion. He was wrong about the medicine, but he was accidentally right about something else. The drink he made was not designed to taste good. It was designed to make you want another one. And that difference is the entire story. The Coca-Cola company has changed its formula dozens of times over the last 140 years. The syrup has been adjusted for regional tastes, for sugar shortages, for political pressure. In 1985, they changed it completely. They called it New Coke. They had spent millions on taste tests, millions on research. They had data proving this version was better. People preferred it in blind sips, and the launch was one of the biggest disasters in business history. Americans did not just dislike New Coke. They were furious. They hoarded old cans. They wrote angry letters. They treated the change like a personal betrayal. The company panicked. They brought the old formula back in 79 days. And here is the part that matters. The old formula did not win because it tasted better. It won because it was familiar, because it was wired into memory, into ritual, into the feeling of a Saturday afternoon or a first date or a road trip with your father. The taste was never the point. The point was the association, and the company understood this faster than almost anyone else on Earth. But that is still not the real engineering. The real engineering is in the chemistry that happens before you even register flavor. Start with the sugar. A single can of Coca-Cola contains 39 grams. That is more than the American Heart Association recommends for an entire day. But the sugar does not arrive alone. It arrives with acid. The pH of Coca-Cola is approximately 2.5. For comparison, vinegar is around 2.4. Your tongue is not built to process that much sugar and that much acid at the same time. The acid does two things. First, it cuts the sweetness. It keeps the sugar from tasting too sweet too fast. It stretches the experience out. Second, it creates a mild sting, a tiny irritation. Your tongue registers it as sensation, as event, as something happening. The brain does not distinguish well between pleasure and the relief of pain. A drink that slightly irritates your tongue, then soothes it with sugar, creates a loop. Every sip is a small transaction, and your nervous system keeps the receipt. Then there is the carbonation. The bubbles are not just for texture. Carbon dioxide triggers pain receptors in your mouth. It is a mild, pleasant sting, but it is still a sting. And when the sting is paired with sugar, your brain processes the combination as more rewarding than either one alone. In 2013, researchers at the University of Southern California ran a study on this exact pairing. They found that carbonated sugar water activated the brain's reward system more strongly than flat sugar water. The bubbles were not decoration, they were amplification. The fizz makes the sugar work harder, and the sugar makes the fizz feel necessary. Now add the caffeine. A can of Coca-Cola contains 34 milligrams. That is roughly a third of a cup of coffee. Not enough to wire you, just enough to notice. Caffeine is a mild stimulant. It increases alertness, reduces fatigue, and creates a very small but very real sense of uplift. But caffeine also does something else. It creates a mild dependency, not addiction in the clinical sense. Something softer, something you do not notice until you skip it. A pattern, a habit, a small expectation your body begins to keep. The caffeine is not there to wake you up. It is there to make sure tomorrow you want another one. In the 1990s, a flavor scientist named Howard Moskowitz was hired by the food industry to solve a problem. He had already discovered something that would change how every processed food and drink was made. He called it the Bliss point, the exact amount of sugar that makes your brain say yes and never say stop. Too little, and you lose interest. Too much, and your body shuts down. But right in the middle, there is a peak, a perfect frequency. And if you hit it, you do not just enjoy the drink, you need the next sip. Moskowitz found that the bliss point was different for every product. For a thick liquid like soda, the number was specific. Not 30 grams, not 45. 39, the same number that has sat in a can of Coca-Cola for decades. The company will not confirm this. They do not have to. The chemistry confirms itself in your nervous system every time you finish one and reach for another. But the most important ingredient was never in the can. It was in the bottle. In 1915, the Coca-Cola company held a design contest. They wanted a bottle that could be recognized in the dark, or if it was broken into pieces. The winning design was inspired by the shape of a cocoa pod. It was curved, it was distinct, it fit the hand in a way that no other bottle did. And that shape became part of the ritual. The cold glass against your palm, the specific weight, the way your fingers closed around it. In 2007, researchers at the University of Michigan found that the shape and temperature of a container changes how people perceive taste. A cold, curved bottle does not just hold the drink, it becomes part of the experience. The company understood this before the science existed. They were not selling liquid, they were selling a sequence. Cold glass, hiss of opening, first sting on the tongue, sugar rush, caffeine lift. Each step is a trigger. Each trigger is a promise. And the promise is not about flavor. It is about the feeling of the next sip. In 2015, a former Coca-Cola executive named Wendy Clark gave a presentation that almost no one outside the industry saw. She showed a slide. On one side was a brain scan of someone drinking Coca-Cola from a branded bottle. On the other side was the same person drinking the same liquid from an unmarked cup. The brain lit up differently. The branded bottle activated regions associated with memory and identity. The unmarked cup activated almost nothing. The drink was identical. The chemistry was identical. But the brain did not care. It was not tasting the liquid. It was tasting the story. And the story was built over 100 years of red trucks, Santa Claus, summer afternoons, and the idea that this drink belongs to something bigger than thirst. So what is the real formula? It is not in the vault in Atlanta. It is in the timing of the sugar spike, the acid sting that keeps you sipping, the caffeine that whispers tomorrow, the carbonation that makes the sugar feel like an event, the bottle that fits your hand like it was designed for it, and the story that makes your brain light up before the liquid even touches your tongue. The secret was never the syrup. The secret was the loop. And the loop was built one chemical trigger at a time, one marketing image at a time, one Saturday afternoon at a time, until wanting it felt like choosing it. There is still a vault in Atlanta. There are still two executives with two separate keys. And the paper inside still lists ingredients. But the only thing that paper explains is why the drink tastes the way it does. It does not explain why you reached for one today. It does not explain why the can felt cold in exactly the right way. It does not explain why the first sip felt like something happening. Those answers are not locked in a vault. They are in your nervous system. They were put there by people who understood that the best product is not the one you like. It is the one you do not notice you are already reaching for. The vault is real, but the secret was never inside it. The secret was you.